Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. It is Erev Shabbos, Parshat Vayakhel-Pekudei. We are finishing Sefer Shmos, also finishing our Zman. You see I'm already in a little more relaxed mode as we're moving into Bein Hazmanim. The Yeshiva is on Yam Liyam, just started Yam Liyam. I hope to be going up to join them this afternoon and be with them for a couple of days as they trek through the heart of Eretz Yisrael. And we are finishing up Sefer Shmos, and it's a Parshat Chazak V'Nischazek. And I want to share with you an insight, a thought on Sefer Shmos Bichlal, and certainly Parshat Vayakhel-Pekudei in particular. So one thing that is very interesting when you notice and you look at Sefer Shmos in total, you'll find the first half of Sefer Shmos is of course a narrative, and we find a tremendous sense of Hashgachas Hashem throughout. Eser Makos, Yitzias Mitzrayim, the relationship that Hashem has, the Gilui Shechina with Moshe Rabbeinu, with all of Knesset Yisrael, Kriyas Yamsuf, climaxing in the Aseres Adibros in Matan Torah, tremendous sense of Gilui Shechina. You look at the end of the Parsha, the end of the Sefer, and you'll notice that the last few psukim we are full of mitzvos, detail after detail after detail, Nihakamas HaMishkan, but we don't find the Shechina whatsoever. We don't find, it's very, very dry. There is no narrative, and it's a very, very dry story of the Binyan HaMishkan. So number one is the shift in Sefer Shmos, a dramatic shift from the narrative from Hashgachas Hashem to the dry part of the Binyan HaMishkan. Moreover, we find the presence of Hashem very palpable in the beginning of the Sefer, and we find that we are stuck in the minutiae of mitzvos in the end of the Sefer. And the Ramban clearly points out, the very beautiful Ramban, and it's very clear in the Pshuto Shel Mikra, that there's a clear turning point in Sefer Shmos. Sefer Shmos opens up with such fanfare, with such energy, as Klal Yisrael are taken out of Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf, making our way to Kabbalas HaTorah, Maimad Har Sinai. And then, of course, it all crashes down. The turning point is the Egel HaZahav, and we're chote in a very, very dramatic way. We had the high point of Hashras HaShechina, and now we throw it all away to the point that Hashem wants to absolutely destroy the Jewish people. We go ahead and build an Avodah Zarah, a foreign form of worship, and everything comes dramatically crashing down. Says the Ramban that Sefer Bereshis, the Avos, with their Merkavas HaShechina, the Chariots of Shechina, they had a unique, individualized relationship of Hashgachas Hashem. Then Klal Yisrael are formed in the beginning of Sefer Shmos, and we lose it all. And the agenda, the mission for the balance, the second half of Sefer Shmos, is to somehow get back to where we were beforehand. That have this nation to be a nation that has the same type of hashgacha that we had when we were by the Avos, that the Avos had, and somehow bring that back to the Jewish people. The Egel created a Siluk HaShechina, and even when Hashem decides that he's not going to destroy the people, the Shechina was still on the outside. Moshe was not dwelling in the camp. And then we have this week's Parsha. And the Parsha opens up, Parshat Vayakhel, and is very, very striking, and again, a lot to develop, but we'll just be very brief. Vayakhel Moshe es kol hadas b'nei Yisrael, elu hadvar asher tziva Hashem la'asos osam. He gathers the people, Vayakhel. And clearly, now we're going to implement the Mishkan. And the question is very obvious. We had Truma, we had Tetzava, all the details. Why do we have to do it again in Vayakhel-Pekudei? We're given the command in Truma Tetzava, and now we have to have all the detail, the actual binyan. Why do we have to have that sense of repetition? And the answer, as given by many Mefarshim, is that the Mishkan is the Tekin for the Ched HaEgel. It's there textually, and it's certainly there thematically. Textually, we find when Bnei Yisrael were building the Egel, so they were Vayakhel. They gathered to bring all of their gold to Aaron that he could forge for them an Egel Hazav. Now the Tikkun is we're going to fix it. And the fix is with the Hakamas HaMishkan, Vayakhel Moshe es kol hadas b'nei Yisrael, bring all of your gold, bring all of your fancy jewels to go ahead not to build an Egel Hazav, but to build a Mishkan. And over, the refrain in these parshas that we find is constantly Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe, that they built the menorah, they built the shulchan, they built the mizbeach. Everything was Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe, where beforehand the Egel was built as an Egel Hazav, as an Avoda Zara. Even if it was L'Shem Shamayim, even if it was there to worship Hashem, even if it was there to be an intermediary, Moshe was tarrying, so the Egel was intermediary. Nevertheless, it was not commanded. Now all of a sudden the Mishkan is commanded, and everything Bnei Yisrael does is Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe. Over and over again, you'll hear that refrain in the Kriyas HaTorah 20 times, at least 20 times, to emphasize that point that this was all Tzivui Hashem. We were sent to Galus, and the mission was to come back. The Shekhinah should return. And indeed, the last pasuk in Parshat Pekudei, right before we'll say Chazak, Chazak, we are told, Ki anan Hashem ala mishkan, yomam va'eshti alayla bo le'enei kol Yisrael b'chol ma'asehem. The anan came back. And the anan was restored, that sense of Hashras HaShekhinah that the Avos had, that we had at Har Sinai, that we destroyed, we lost. So finally, after the Hakamas HaMishkan, after the Tekin is complete, after we now do everything Asher Tziva Hashem es Moshe, now we have once again that sense of Hashras HaShekhinah. I've said before many times that the Netziv points out in his Hakdama that to Sefer Shmos, that Shmos is the completion of the Bereishis story. And in a very real sense, now we come full circle. Bereishis was the Hashras HaShekhinah of Hashem and the Avos. We lost that. And now the end of Sefer Shmos with the Hakamas HaMishkan is that the Anan, during the daytime, the Eish Ba'alayla dwells, Le'enei Kol B'nei Yisrael, that we are restored once again with Hashem. I'll take it even a step further. Rabbi Nachum Liptek points out very beautifully that we have, when Adam Harishon was cast out of Gan Eden, when Adam Harishon was kicked out, so to kind of protect the Gan, and to protect the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, that Adam would have wanted to partake of, Hashem set up Kruvim. Take a look, Bereishis, Paragimel, Pasuk Chavdalet, Hashem sets up Kruvim to protect the Eitz HaChaim after Adam Harishon is banished. It's only at one other time in the Chumash that you find Kruvim. Once again, the Kruvim are found over here by the Hakamas HaMishkan, and where are they found? They're also found on the Paroches, right on top of the Aron Bris Hashem. And the Aron Bris Hashem houses the Torah, houses the Luchos, houses the Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Ba. Is that today we don't always feel that palpable sense of Shekhinah. So how do we generate that sense of Shekhinah? We don't have a Gan Eden that we can feel in a palpable way. We certainly don't have Kriyas Yamsuf. We don't have Har Sinai. We don't have a Mishkan. But the same Kruvim that were there to protect the Eitz Chaim at the time of Adam Harishon, it's the same Kruvim that sit on top of the Luchos, and ultimately that too is our Eitz Chaim Lamachazikim Ba, is that relationship to Torah's Hashem, is the Eitz Chaim, is the ultimate Eitz Chaim, which means that when a person has a sense of Hashras HaShekhinah, just like Adam Harishon, he sinned and he was cast out of Gan Eden, he loses that connection to Shekhinah. And the Kruvim are there to create that barrier. So now with the Hakamas HaMishkan, we once again have that sense of Shekhinah. And what that means, when you think about it, is Gan Eden equals Mishkan. Gan Eden equals Shekhinah, Mishkan equals Shekhinah. It's all one package. And perhaps Bizman Hazeh, when we don't have that sense of, that same palpable sense of Shekhinah, so the Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikim Ba is Limud HaTorah. And it's our Limud HaTorah that connects us, that creates that connectedness to the Ribono Shel Olam. Rav Asher Weiss speaks about this all the time. The reason that there is such an emphasis on Talmud Torah is that the Eitz Chaim Hi Lamachazikin Ba is ultimately our source of Chaim. Our Eitz Chaim, our source of strength, is the Torah Hashem, and those that are Machazikin Ba really sustain themselves, sustain everything around us. That is that sense of Shekhinah that we have. So as we come full circle, we've finished Sefer Bereshis, we're about to finish Sefer Shmos. And we've gone through the ups and downs of Knesset Yisrael in Sefer Shmos. We've been through those down times of Golus Mitzrayim, the up times of Kriyas Yamsef of Kabbalas HaTorah, back down again in the Ched HaEgel. But the reason for all those details of Mishkan is to tell us that that's ultimately the Tikkun. Kasher Tziva Hashem Es Moshe, fulfill Mitzvahs Hashem. No creativity, no fanfare, just do what Hashem asks, and also to have that sense of Hashras HaShechina, that linkage to Shechina, that linkage to what Mishkan is all about. The Lashon Mishkan is, of course, the Lashon of Shechina, that Hashem is V'shachanti B'socham. And today, when sometimes it's hard, so our connection to Talmud Torah, to Limud Torah, is what gives us that palpable sense of Shechina. So as we are starting, we're in this Tekufa of Geula, of tremendous Geula. We go from the Geula of Adar to the Geula of Nisan. And we have that tremendous Mishanichnas Adar, Marben Besimcha, not just because of Purim, but because this whole stretch of time that we find ourselves, this calendaric time of Aviv, of the springtime, where the flowers are starting to sprout. Geula is starting to sprout. And hopefully we are starting to sprout. We should all be zoche to have a real sense of chazak v'nischazek, strengthen ourselves in our learning, in our connection to mitzvos, in our relationship to Shechina, and Be'ezus Hashem will be zoche to go mechayu el chayu.